Welcome back. Burnout doesn't vanish when the worst is over. It lingers in the quiet spaces between intention and action. Episode 9 is not the episode where everything gets resolved. It is the episode where transformation becomes harder to ignore. At this point in the story, Jira isn't collapsing anymore. He isn't fighting for his life. He isn't hiding in numbness. He is standing in a new kind of space, one that requires him to attend to living rather than surviving. Most recovery stories position survival as the triumph, but episode 9 suggests something more honest. What comes after survival? When life resumes without the urgency that once propelled it. That moment can feel disorienting, because the skills that keep you alive under pressure are not the same ones you need to build a life that feels worth living. This episode quietly invites us to sit with that tension. In earlier episodes, Jira's world was shaped by reaction, reacting to exhaustion, to overwhelm, to criticism, to expectations. In episode 9, we see a slow but fundamental shift. Jira begins to move from reaction to intention. This shift is not dramatic, and it is not flashy. It shows up in small behaviors. He pauses before responding emotionally. He notices when he needs rest again. He recognizes when he is about to repeat an old pattern. None of these are huge moments, but they are cumulative. They add up. And this is the story Episode 9 wants us to notice. Intentional living requires awareness. Awareness requires practice. And Episode 9 unfolds as a study in practiced presence rather than impulsive survival. Jira is no longer fighting his own body or running from himself. He's learning how to participate in his own life again, but on different terms. One of the most profound psychological movements in Episode 9 revolves around self-knowledge and the paradox that comes with it. Self-knowledge is not a cure. It is not a force field. It is not protection. Instead, it is a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable. Before burnout, Jira may have believed that knowing himself would bring clarity, direction, or certainty. But Episode 9 shows us that self-knowledge often brings awareness of contradictions. The desire to rest versus the fear of appearing unproductive. The need for connection versus the instinct to retreat. The capacity to heal versus the expectation that healing should feel inspiring. This is the paradox. That understanding one's motivations, fears, and patterns is not liberation at first. It is clarity without comfort. Episode 9 treats this clarity with dignity rather than judgment. It acknowledges that self-understanding does not erase doubts. It reframes them. Rather than asking, "Why am I like this?" the internal question becomes, "Can I remain here with this awareness?" This is a higher threshold than most people talk about. By now, Jira's relationships have been through multiple recalibrations. From crisis-based intensity to quiet companionship, to relational realignment and freedom from painful dynamics. Episode 9 explores what it means to be connected without holding on to old emotional dependencies. This is significant because many burnout narratives revolve around being saved or being understood, but this series, and especially this episode, frames connection differently. Connections are no longer lifelines. They are mirrors and windows. Mirrors because they reflect parts of Jira he has not yet fully integrated. Windows because they allow him to see other possibilities without necessarily absorbing them. This subtle shift is powerful. Connectedness in Episode 9 is not about reliance. It is about presence without insecurity. People in Jira's life are no longer anchors for his identity. They are companions in a shared space. This difference is essential, and the episode gives it generous room. Connection without dependency is one of the hardest forms of emotional maturity. It requires internal regulation, self-trust, and the ability to hold one's own emotional space without seeking validation. Episode 9 does not present this as a given. It shows it as a practice, something that needs attention, patience, and self-reflection. Episode 9 carries a beautiful and painful moment. Jira begins integrating his former self, not as someone to be resurrected, but as someone to be understood and honored. Integration is not the same as returning to who he was before burnout. Instead, it collects his experience and incorporates it into his present self. To integrate means acknowledging the limits burnout imposed, recognizing how exhaustion shaped emotional responses, noticing how old coping mechanisms still appear, allowing past survival strategies to rest, choosing participation over reaction. Integration is not a linear process. It is circular. It revisits, reframes, and releases over time. Episode 9 does not show a tidy integration. It shows ongoing reconciliation. This is one of the most psychologically rich movements in the series. The understanding that the self is not solved, fixed, or complete. It is always in progress, always unfolding. And the place of integration is neither past nor future. It is here, in the present. As episode 9 approaches its final moments, something subtle unfolds. Jira is no longer afraid of the future. He is uncertain about it. Uncertainty is not anxiety. Anxiety is fear of what might happen. Uncertainty is the unknown with no emotional attachment to danger. Episode 9 gives us a portrait of someone who can hold uncertainty without collapsing under it. This is one of the most remarkable aspects of true healing, not knowing what comes next and yet being able to say, I don't know, but I can be here anyway. Jira does not experience triumph. He does not experience total clarity. He does not even experience peace, but he experiences presence. And that is the most human state of all. Episode 9 closes not on a conclusion, but on continuity. Jira has not become someone new. He has become someone familiar to himself again, but shaped by what he has endured. Burnout doesn't vanish at the end of a story. It becomes something you live with. Not as a shadow, but as an experience that has transformed your relationship to yourself and others. Episode 9 reminds us that recovery isn't a destination. It's a way of inhabiting your life with awareness, without needing answers. And that's not just healing. That's living. If you want the next deep dive, like the video, subscribe and comment next episode. I'll see you then.